Hello, everybody. Our long national nightmare is over. Red Bull has gone a race without winning. Max Verstappen has gone a race without winning. Not really expecting that to last very long, but hey, we got one race without Max Verstappen or Sergio Perez at the top of the podium. In fact, on the podium at all. So it was a nice breath of fresh air. Lewis could have actually won. We're not going to go too much into details of Singapore because obviously that was last week and this is this week, and Japan is coming up. Suzuka, in fact, they've already done the practice sessions for that. Well, first and second. But I'll be damned. I'll be damned if I'm going to go a week without having an episode. So I am recording this Friday morning, re-recording. It's just been one of those weeks for Adrian and I. I've been sick all week, but that's okay. I can record sick. It kind of sounds a little deeper, a little more nasally. I don't mind it. But we just couldn't get schedules together, and just one of those weeks. So as I said, though, I'll be damned if I'm going to go a week without posting something. So you're welcome. You're welcome. Now, I'm not entirely sure if Adrian's going to hop on and give his thoughts on Suzuka or Singapore, but I'm going to record mine, and we'll see what happens. We will see what happens. I'm not going to go too much into the talking points from Singapore because I said that is last week, but a couple quick things I want to mention. Lance. Yeah. That's that Lance Stroll. Pretty bad crash in quali. Disappointing though that he wasn't able to race. Understandable, but kind of sucks that when a guy, he competed in quali, so they weren't able to replace him with someone else. It would have been nice to see Felipe Drugovich or someone else getting to go, give it a race, give it a go. But yeah, that's just kind of the way it is. Disappointing. On the other hand, Tauri's future looks, I mean, there's supposed to be an announcement coming out today or this weekend that Yuki Tsunoda and Daniel Ricciardo are getting the seats for 2024. But I mean, the way Liam Lawson is driving, it's spectacular. He's already got a point at Singapore, which is a really hard track. Pretty damn impressive. I mean, him and Oscar are really changing the perception of what it is to be an F1 rookie. There's been a few guys that have come along. Lewis Hamilton obviously dominated, did extremely well in his rookie season, but we're often quick to give guys like Logan Sargent, for example, and it happened with Yuki Tsunoda. Yuki was terrible in his rookie year. We give them at least a year or two to see if they can crack it, because there's a lot of change between whether it's F2, F3 even, Super Formula, if you're doing like rally cars, whatever the case may be. It's very different to go into F1. So yeah, everyone's kind of given a bit of leeway, but not so much the case now. It seems like with Piastri and Lawson just coming in and being so good right away. We thought we had that with Nick DeVries. That was only one race, and there was in hindsight, there was a lot of factors that went into him doing so well in that one race. But Liam Lawson has shown that it's not just a one race thing. He's been pretty solid, but it doesn't seem like there's going to be a seat for him next year at AlphaTauri. So does he go to Williams and replace Logan Sargent? Are they ready to kick Logan Sargent out of there? Does he maybe move up to Red Bull and take Perez's seat? We've seen Red Bull go with young guys before, Albon and Gasly, and that didn't really work out. So I don't really see that happening, but it would be very exciting. So just keep an eye on that. A couple interesting kind of inter-team things. We had Max and Checo, awful week for them, obviously, especially when you could look at the rest of the season, but Checo was just driving guys off the track. I mean, the one, I don't know if it's Albon or Sargent, I believe it's Albon, but just literally drives him into the wall. And I don't think he got a penalty for that. He did end up getting a penalty after the race, but it didn't really matter. And then Max was impeding like crazy. I mean, the one against Yuki was just like, everyone's given a 5-second penalty or a 3-place grid penalty. Something had to be given from that. So it seems like it's kind of rearing its head again, the different rules for different people, rules for thee, but not for me, if you will. And I'm not just saying that's just Max. It happens sometimes with other people, but it does seem as though guys, to use Yuki for an example, will get a penalty for just about anything, whereas Max and a few others have to do something pretty egregious to get a penalty. So it'd be nice to see a little more just fairness across the board, but that's okay. We had Lewis and George, an interesting kind of battle for third. Lewis was quicker near the end. He kind of didn't wear his tires out as quick when they switched to mediums. And I can guarantee you, this is my one guarantee of the week, that if George were trailing behind Lewis and George were in the faster car, George would be on the horn complaining and, "Oh, guys, get Lewis to move out of the way, I'm going faster." That wasn't a very good George Russell impression, but it came to me. His would be more like, "Guys, get Lewis to get out of the way. It's bollocks, isn't it?" Yep. That's exactly what he would sound like. So anyways, none of that from Lewis. I mean, there was one mention of it, just a brief, like, one passer here, but realistically, Lewis would have had a fair shot of winning that race. I know I'm biased, so I'm going to say winning, because Lando even admitted that George got on one turn. George got so close that Lando thought he was going to have to back off, but George kind of didn't get a good exit out of that turn. I forget which turn it was. My apologies, but Lando thought that he was going to have to back off and let George through, and then Lando was within 1 second of Carlos quite a bit. So if Lewis on faster tires was ahead of George, instead of it being so close to getting past Lando, he would have gotten past Lando. And then it's anyone's guess whether in DRS to Carlos Sainz on fresher tires in a faster car, if Lewis would have been able to pass Carlos. But very interesting happenings. And then for whatever reason, Lewis didn't really get the support of Mercedes on the podium. He looked like he was kind of just up there by himself, so he was celebrating with his old team McLaren, which was cool to see, but like, I don't know, I didn't like it. I don't really like this, whether it's just a narrative or whether it's actually true, the idea that George is getting preferential treatment for Mercedes is absolutely asinine. I mean, do we need to have the GOAT discussion? I know Adrian's not here, but like, what are they doing? It's I don't like to see it. I'm sure it's kind of being overblown, but just sort of strange things going on in the Mercedes world. But on to this week. I only talked about that for 7 minutes, so that's not too bad. Lewis is up to P3 in the standings. I did have to mention that. P3, pretty darn good. P3. That's behind Max and Checo. So really, the non-Red Bull driving champion of the year so far. If Lewis can get up to second and somehow pass Checo by the end of the year, that would be an all-time season. I'm just gonna say it, especially if you can do somehow without any wins, which I'm not hoping for, but just yeah, careful before you start saying bad things about Lewis, because he's showing he's very, very good. So you shut your mouth. Speaking of good, Red Bull can win the Constructors again this weekend. They had a chance to do it last weekend, obviously didn't go to plan. To win this weekend, they just have to outscore Mercedes and beat Ferrari by 24 points. So, outscore Mercedes and beat Ferrari by 24 points. Okay, well, interesting. See how that goes. I mean, I guess you'd rather win in Japan than Qatar, where the next race is, but I have no idea. I'm just saying that off the top of my head. I don't really know what I'm talking about. I mentioned Piastri and how he's changing, him and Lawson are changing the ways for rookies. Well, Oscar has been rewarded by a contract extension through 2026. So McLaren, they look like they're on the up and up. They now have Lando through 2025 and Piastri through 2026. So, I mean, look out. They could be, if everything goes properly, they could be a team fighting for Constructors Championships, because they have two extremely good drivers and a car that's looking pretty good. If their car had been this good all year, they'd probably be second place, because they don't seem to make the mistakes Ferrari makes, and they have two very consistent drivers. I don't know, I think between Mercedes, McLaren, and Ferrari, you've got three teams that are just really going to have really good battles. And quite frankly, if they all were in equal cars, I think those three teams would do better than Red Bull, because, yes, Max is in a world of his own, but if you were to compare all those teammates, I think, and put them all in a pool, those 8 guys, from Red Bull, Mercedes, McLaren, and Ferrari, I think the bottom guy would be Perez. Maybe the top guy would be Max, but the bottom guy would be Perez. So it'd be interesting. But yeah, if they're all in equal cars, I do think Red Bull would have a tough time keeping up. That's why they're going to have to probably make a change at some point, whether it's next year or just wait till Perez's contract runs out at the end of next year. We shall see. There are also some rumors. Williams has been courting Felipe Drugovich. Toto Wolff tried to get Mick Schumacher into that conversation, sending Mick's sim data to James Vowles, Williams' team principal, but James Vowles didn't. Whatever, he didn't really care. I guess it wasn't good enough. Tough break for Mick, but Felipe has won. I think him and Theo Porchera are sort of next up. If obviously Liam Lawson's there, but in terms of guys that aren't in F1 that deserve a shot, I'd say Drugovich and Theo Porchera. So Drugovich, I believe, is the reserve driver for Aston Martin, and disappointing that he didn't get to drive last week when Lance was out. Seb is there this week, but Lance is driving. Lance is back, and Seb was there just for Buzz and Corner. They're doing some stuff where they're planting beehives around the track, or I don't know. It's not really my forte, but good for Seb for coming back and doing some good environmental stuff. But yeah, I don't really have too much to say about that. Just always nice to see Sebastian Vettel around the track. Wish he was racing though. Him and Alonso would just be an unbelievable team. Whether it would go well, I don't know, but just as a F1 fan, it would just, I feel like I was a kid again. But speaking of Alonso, he has claimed that F1 qualifying is obsolete. I don't disagree with the statement, but I disagree with the way what he said. He said that F1 qualifying has been the same for a long time, but the cars haven't. The cars have changed. I don't really see why that matters. I don't know. I actually like the current qualifying format. Adrian and I have discussed this a lot on the show. What other qualifying formats they could go to? I think Alonso wants single shot qualifying, like one lap. And the problem with that is like the track just gets rubbered in everyone that goes. So then it's not really fair. It would be cool to have like the reverse order. So like Max has to go up first, and so on and so on, because Max, Checo, Lewis, so on and so on. So it kind of evens it out, I guess. If you have the best car, you go first, and then whoever's going last has the rubbered in track. But then you have things like rain and all that. So I don't know if that works and if that's as exciting for the fans. I think maybe I like how IndyCar does it, but maybe just making the Q3 8 cars, maybe 6 cars or something, or like a head-to-head. I don't know. I think they can just leave quality the way it is, but Fernando Alonso says it. I've got to bring it up because he's a legend of the sport. But yeah, we can do a little Japanese GP preview here. Suzuka, one of the best tracks, maybe not. I don't know if I can say best tracks, but one of the favorite tracks. I can certainly say that one of the favorite tracks of the drivers. They, to a man, almost say that they absolutely love this track. It's one of those ones where you really got to get into a rhythm. Yes, being fastest, having the fastest car obviously matters. Certainly more here than a track like last week where there's just tons of turns. But this one's fun. It's kind of like a bit of like Silverstone, but maybe like that's the closest comparison. But a fun course, guys. Like I said, guys like it. You have to get into a rhythm. Sebastian Vettel said this is like weeks like this make him miss F1 because the track is so fun to drive. The times are always interesting for us here on the East Coast. We had last night, practice 1 was at 10:30. I'm not exactly sure when practice 2 was because I went to bed after practice 1. But we've got qualifying coming up Eastern Standard Time. I believe it's 2 a.m. It's not working out. But anyways, 2 a.m. for qualifying, and then the race at 1 a.m. So the race at 1 a.m. So yeah, we got a little bit of a late nights, but I'm a late night guy. I'm more of a night guy than anything else, so I don't mind it personally. Sorry, I'm just trying to get the notes up here. See what I missed. Okay, here we go. yeah, I like night races. I think it's fun. I think it's fun to stay up and watch them at night as opposed to just waking up and being kind of groggy and having sleep in my eye and having to chug coffee. Yeah, it's fun to just kind of stay out a little later, maybe watch it a little intoxicated. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's fun. I don't know if I would want it every week, but for a one-off week, it's fun to have a late night race here on the East Coast. So, not too much in terms of preview. I mean, Red Bull clearly, we saw practice one. Red Bull, or at least Max, are going to dominate again. Even Lewis said if Red Bull doesn't win by 30 seconds, something's amiss. I don't want to believe that, but I'm going to believe it. Max was putting up a second over everyone at certain points. I mean, the Ferrari looked good in practice one. McLaren looked okay, a little shaky, but pace-wise looked good. I was just looking up the practice two times. I don't know what happened with Perez. He's way down the list, but Max obviously topping it. And then, yeah, we got Ferrari, McLaren. Mercedes not looking good, especially Lewis, I think P14 in practice two. And we don't know what fuel load or setup or just practice program he was doing, but not what you want to see from your favorite driver. But yeah, we got one more practice session. We got quali. We got time to work out the kinks. Hoping that we'd have a dry weekend. That would be nice for once, but I don't know necessarily about that. Let me just look up real quick here. While I look up that, I'll give you my podium predictions for this week. I do think that Max is going to win. He's going to be back on top. But from the looks of it, Checo's not really on form. So I'm going to say Max Verstappen wins, and then Carlos Sainz is just in good form, but so was Lando. I'm going to say Max, Carlos, Lando, Charles, Sergio Perez, George Russell, Lewis Hamilton, unfortunately. Okay, let's see. Japan GP weather. Okay. Here we go. All right then. Saturday for qualifying, we got dry and sunny conditions expected all day. The light to moderate northwesterly wind. 20% chance of rain, I'll take that. Sunday, race weather conditions, fair weather, mostly sunny and dry conditions, likely with a light to moderate southerly wind. I think it should be southerly, they put southerly, but hey, wind in the afternoon. 28 degrees Celsius, race temperature. Chance of rain, 20%. Okay, so it looks like we're in for a good weekend of weather. There's always a chance that it won't go that well, but that's what we're looking at. Yeah, sorry, not too much in-depth stuff this week, but had to get something out. We've been, credit to Adrian, he's been putting a lot of stuff out on TikTok. I've been doing my best, and he kind of mans the Twitter. So aside from the odd Mercedes comment that I don't approve of, he's doing a very good job of that. So yeah, look out for us on Twitter or X if you want to call it that, but it's Twitter. And TikTok, all that good stuff. I'm not sure if Adrian's going to be chiming in, but if he is, enjoy that little segment from Adrian. And we will be posting race reviews on TikTok immediately after the race. And yeah, just, like and subscribe, all the good stuff. We will be back next week there's no race next week. I checked. It's Qatar the week after. But we'll be back to discuss everything. And hopefully you will see both of our handsome faces, not just this mug. Yes. Bye-bye.
Hello, racing fans. I am outside again, so you know what that means. I fucked up my schedule. Yeah, I could not, unfortunately, get with RJ at the right times to record this week. Totally on me. I just, not going to go into, how busy I am. Oh my gosh, I have so much going on. It's just work stuff. It's boring. It's not fun. I wish I could fully focus my life on Formula One, but unfortunately I'm only able to focus about 2/3 of it. So yes, RJ thankfully was able to recap us a little bit on the Singapore GP, talk about some notable moments and also some news that has been circulating the F1 zeitgeist this week. Obviously the Japanese GP is starting, it's already going actually, not the GP, the weekend. As of recording this, FP1 and FP2 have gone on, and of course Max is just back at the top of the leaderboard, so it's going to be really interesting to see where he ends up qualifying. I think I have an idea of where he's going to qualify. I'll get to that in a second though. But the Singapore GP, it was nice, I'm just going to quickly comment on that since Red Bull, or Max specifically, is my favorite driver, I guess you could say. He definitely is. But it was, strangely enough, nice to not see him win. I do think he should have absolutely been handed a penalty for impeding, whether it was intentional or not. You know, you do the crime, you got to deal with the consequences. And, you know, Lewis was given a 5-place grid penalty for pretty similar incident, and Max did it 3 times. So, yeah, it's definitely not fair. And I'm not sure, I didn't do enough research on this, but it looks like the FIA have even said that they kind of fucked up on that one and didn't hand out a good enough penalty. So, yeah, once again, the FIA just living up to their really, really high expectations that they've set for us. Right. But yes, the Japanese GP is going to be happening this Sunday. If you're in America or Canada, you're going to be staying up really late tonight to watch quali. I know RJ already went through the times and everything, but 2 a.m., that's going to be tough. You know, back in, you know, my younger days, it would have been a little bit easier for me to stay up and watch till 3 a.m. And I'm still going to do it, but I'm going to bitch about it. It's going to be tough. Listen, us over here in America and Canada, we have to deal with crazy schedules all the time because most of the races are overseas in Europe anyway. So we're used to it. It's not that big of a deal. We love F1, so we'll put up with it. So I'm going to quickly get into my predictions, and yeah, then I'll get us out of here. I think Red Bull, specifically Max, are going to just dominate once again this week. Max, if I have this correctly, Max is still running the new floor from Singapore, and Sergio is running the old floor. They were running the FlowViz, the green paint stuff on all the cars on FP1 and FP2. Carlos got a little bit of spray from Lando, which was a bit funny. But yeah, I think Max is going to win. I'm actually going to give my quali predictions first. I think Max will qualify first. It's tough. And then I think it's going to be like a Sainz-Leclerc situation, kind of swap out Leclerc and Norris. I think it's sort of going to be Red Bull, Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes. I know RJ wants to put his fist through a wall hearing me say this, but I don't think Mercedes are going to do very well this week. It just doesn't seem like they're progressing. I mean, just going off the practice numbers alone, I mean, they had a great result in Singapore, but just judging off the pace of the car from what we've seen so far, it just isn't looking good. Of course, that could change, but as of right now, you just don't know. I just don't really, just off my small insight that I have, I just don't think they're going to do very well, but we'll see. You know, George is for sure going to want redemption for his screw up in the final lap of the Singapore GP, and I know Lewis is still hungry for that win and, you know, for higher up on the podium spots. So yeah, but I just don't see Mercedes absolutely crushing it. Man, the sound, I'm trying to think of the right words for it. There's just a lot of ambient noise happening, isn't there? A professional podcaster here, you guys. Listen. Okay, last but not least, as far as the race goes, I believe Max will win, followed by... This is going to be tough. I think it's going to be a Red Bull driver, a Ferrari driver, and a McLaren driver on the podium. Boom. There's my prediction. So next week, me and RJ will be back together. I've been putting a lot of effort into the TikTok, our TikTok page at HarderSoftF1. So please go over there and follow us. I'm posting every single day. Me and RJ are both posting. We're just posting our reactions to certain topics, to races, to quali, and then we're posting memes and clips and all sorts of other stuff. It's a nice little Formula One hub that we're trying to create, starting on TikTok, because it's easy to, you know, get exposure and views over there, and we're doing pretty well. So please go over there, follow us, and come back next week for me and RJ to discuss the recap of the Suzuka GP. So thank you guys very much. Appreciate all of you watching and or listening, and I will see you next week.